Guys. Thank you for joining this session. So, in this session, we are going to do a breathwork pranayam practice. And before we begin, I am going to start explaining a few things about the breath. And I'm also then going to stop, pause for a bit, take some of your questions. You can either put it into the chat box, or when I tell you that it's open for questions, you can also unmute yourself and ask the questions. So that's going to be the first part, my introduction to breath work, a little bit explaining the science of breath work and the benefits of breath work. And then we actually go into a practice session where we will practice, do maybe a half an hour, 40-minute practice session. And then I'll close off with a sharing, and you can share your experiences and what you went through and how you felt as a result of doing the breath work. Just a little bit about me before I begin. My name is Rohil, and I'm a yoga teacher from India, currently based out of Bali. And so I've been sort of studying with a lot of teachers in India, in a lot of ashrams, a lot of different places. And I've also sort of integrated my understandings with modern science. And at the moment, I am beginning to pursue a master's in neuroscience, cognitive science, where I want to be able to study from having learned the ancient tools and the practices of yoga in India, and I want to integrate that with how exactly it works on our mind, on our nervous system, on our brain, neural pathways, things like that. So that's just in a few words a bit of where I'm at the moment. Um, so let's begin. Breath, or prana as it's called in the yoga traditions. This word prana means life force, and this life force is entering and exiting our body through the breath. So it's through the breath that we have access to our life force, according to the yogic traditions. So the ancient yogis, they believe that we sort of calculate life in breath and not in age or number of years or time. So we, in that sense, we all come into life with a set number of breaths. And so the quicker we breathe through these breaths, the quicker we die. The slower we breathe through these breaths, the longer we live. So we are trying to sort of deepen our breath, elongate our breath in our everyday existence. This is what our breathwork pranayam practice is sort of geared towards, or wants to sort of create this in us, that ability to breathe slower and deeper in every moment in life. So breath is one of those things that can be done consciously or unconsciously. And the more we are conscious about our breath, even as you guys are listening to me here, if you just tune into your own breath, you just become conscious of your breath, you'll notice that you're able to, somehow your breath slows down, you become more aware, your consciousness becomes more subtle, you're aware of the sounds around you, of what I'm saying. It sort of helps you to calm down. So across all cultures, you'll find like our grandmothers telling us to breathe deeply, breathe slowly whenever we have maybe some anxiety attacks, or we are feeling a little bit out of sync, we're not feeling so good. They'll usually tell us to breathe deeply. So this is something that is embedded in all cultures. We all sort of know that the breath is something that can help center us. So on average, an average human being breathes about 16 breaths a minute. This is according to medical journals. Today, if you are sick, or you are in ill health, you will sort of breathe more than 16 breaths a minute, so your breath rate increases. And the healthier you are, actually your breath rate tends to decrease. So according to the yogic practice, we should not be breathing more than 11 breaths a minute. Ideally, if we can breathe 5 or 6 breaths a minute, that's a sign of a really healthy respiratory system and somebody whose mind is very calm. So before we begin, I'm just going to talk now about some ways that we can analyze our own breath and see whether we are breathing the way that we are supposed to breathe. So the first, it's very simple, but you can all just place your hands on your belly and just try to notice for yourself whether your belly is going in or out as you inhale, and whether it's going in or out as you exhale. So you can just type into the box now if it's going in or out as you inhale. So you can just type in or out. Okay, good. So as you inhale, the belly should go out. Your diaphragm is sort of, it's a funny muscle because it's sort of coming as we breathe in, it sort of comes, as it expands, it collapses downwards and that pushes the belly out. So if we have a reverse breathing pattern where we draw the belly in as we breathe in, which quite a few people nowadays have, this directly affects our nervous system. So a lot of science now has found that our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system is closely linked to the way we breathe, to the pattern of our breath rate, and also the way we draw the belly in and out. So a lot of people also sometimes, if they are very conscious of their own bodies, will tend to draw the belly in as they inhale because they are trying to sort of look thinner or whatever it might be. So we have to always be conscious not to go into this reverse pattern of breathing. This is the first. The second, let's analyze now which nostril is more dominant. So if you just place your finger underneath both your nostrils, and then again you can type into the box whether your left nostril is dominant or your right nostril is dominant at this point. Or if somebody has is breathing equally through both nostrils, you can put that in as well. So in a normal circumstance, we are basically shifting from left to right every 90 minutes to 2 hours. So every 2 hours we're shifting from from breathing dominantly through one nostril to the other. And both the nostrils are linked to different aspects of our nervous system. So our right nostril is linked to our sympathetic nervous system, and our left nostril is linked to our parasympathetic nervous system. So what that means is that when we are breathing predominantly through the right nostril, there will be it's supposed to be the sun energy in yoga. They say the right nostril is linked to the energy of the sun. It's the masculine, the energizing energy, and the left is linked to the energy of the moon. It's the rest, and so it's linked to the parasympathetic nervous system. When the parasympathetic nervous system gets activated, this is the rest and digest. So our body is actually in a state of rest and digest. We are going into a relaxed state. When it's going into when we are breathing predominantly through the right, we are sort of in this, we are energizing, we are also increasing our in some ways our stress levels. So our sympathetic nervous system is sort of flooding our body with energy to deal with stresses in life around us. Not all stress is bad, but if we have too much dominance on the right side, in the right nostril, then we are constantly sort of with the sympathetic nervous system activated, with cortisol hormone being secreted into the body. So we are constantly in this stressed state, and we are constantly going to be the mind is going to be overworked, overrunning, and which over time will lead to fatigue. So similarly, if we have too much dominance on the left nostril, if say 18 out of 24 hours somebody is breathing predominantly through the left, these people are prone more to depression or sadness, because there is too much of that moon energy, as they say. So we ideally, through our yogic practice, we are trying to balance the way we breathe through both nostrils. So a yogi or somebody who has been practicing breathwork for a long time is trying to strive towards breathing equally through both nostrils at all times. So we are then at that point, we are activating equally the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. There is also this sort of, you can say, collaboration or synthesis of the left and right hemispheres of our brain. So these are sort of coming together in these moments when we are breathing equally through both. So this is why I'm not sure if any of you all have seen this neti pot. It's sort of a cleansing practice where you have this small sort of spout, this pot, and you pour it in through one nostril. You pour warm water with salt in through one nostril and it comes out of the other. So this is meant to be a preparation for a pranayam practice. I'll bring the pot at some point towards the end of our practice just to show you all what I'm speaking about. Any questions so far? I'm just opening up the space for any questions, anything you'd like to speak about. Any questions, doubts? No? Okay. So before we begin our practice, I just wanted to speak about one last thing of how the breath is actually also very closely linked to our metabolic system. So we know that breath rate, now the rate at which we breathe, is linked to our metabolic system. So if we breathe very quickly, and generally people who are breathing above 20-24 breaths per minute have a lot of impairment in their metabolic system. Their entire digestive system is not functioning optimally when they breathe at this quick and fast rate. So we are, in a sense, when we breathe too fast, our lungs, our alveoli in our lungs is not able to absorb the gases in the right way that they're meant to be absorbed. And also, like I said earlier, we are too much activating our sympathetic nervous system too much. So also when we breathe too fast, we activate the sympathetic nervous system. When we breathe slower, which means we breathe lesser breaths per minute, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And now also when we have the sympathetic nervous system in overdrive, somebody who has a reverse breath is, as they breathe in, they are drawing the belly inside, and as they breathe out, they're drawing the belly out. A reverse breath, or they're breathing too fast, or they're breathing predominantly through the right nostril. All of these things will lead to, over time, and this doesn't happen in a day or 2 days. If you try to do this just for a day or two, it won't happen. But it's a habit that has been set in for many months. And people, if you're breathing in this way for many months at a time, this will lead to too much stress hormone in the body, too much cortisol in the body. So you're constantly in this activated stress state, and you're more likely to go through burnout. And then the opposite of this, which is depression, because you're too much on one end of the spectrum and then you're sort of hurtling towards the other end. So just by the way you breathe, you can change your entire, the way you feel. It's a very simple science. The way you breathe changes the way you feel. And so if we can slower our breath, breathe longer, deeper, be aware of which nostril we're breathing through, all of these things, they have an effect on sort of when we are in the parasympathetic nervous system. When that's activated, we are in the rest and digest mode. So there's more energy going towards our digestive system, towards our gut. And when that happens, we are able to relax, we are able to digest, absorb nutrients better. A lot of these things sort of become easier in that sense. So somebody is asking me whether I can recommend a good book, Stephanie, or a good website on this subject. So in the end of this video, I will put in a couple of links. I also have a course, an online course on breathwork, which is sort of tying together different aspects from Kriya Kundalini breathwork, which is breathworks which are sort of bringing catharsis or release of emotions. So this is also another way that breathwork is used. Today you'll find breathwork used in a number of different ways. So I'll just quickly speak about what these different ways are. So one is what I've been speaking up until now is relaxation. So we are sort of calming our nervous system, allowing ourselves to relax. So this is the first use of breathwork, is to find relaxation to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. The second is to stimulate the sympathetic to energize. So say you're feeling you have some work, you have to go to office, you have something to do, and now you're feeling low on energy. So instead of having that coffee, you can just do 10 minutes of breath work to energize, and this will really help to feel better, to feel to activate that sympathetic nervous system, which flushes more energy into your system. And then you have breathworks too, which are cathartic, which are helping you release emotions, release trauma. So a lot of the time, um, our traumas, our emotional selves, our emotional bodies are very closely linked to the state of our mind. So sometimes when we are able to go bring our brain into a calmer state. So in scientific terms, we all have brain waves. So our brain has this beta, alpha, theta, delta brainwave. So beta is this sort of awakened state where you're super distracted, thinking of multiple things. Alpha is a super concentrated brainwave state. And theta and delta brainwave states that you access in deep relaxation, in breathwork practices, in meditation practices, and in when you, for instance, when you do a yoga practice, you're going more into the theta and the delta brainwave states. So as we do breath work, we are entering more into the theta and delta brainwave states, and this impacts our the endocrine system within our body. So the endocrine system is responsible for the glands, for the secretion of hormones within our body. So as we sort of come into the parasympathetic nervous system, as our brainwaves sort of get slower, as we relax, we are now, our endocrine system is also functioning better. Our body is producing our endocrine, when our endocrine system is in balance, the body is producing more serotonin. You're feeling less depressed as a result of that. A lot of things are happening simultaneously as we sort of breathe slower and deeper just in our everyday life. And again, I want to mention and reiterate that this is not something that happens within a day. So it's not like of course, you might do a meditation or do a breath work or do a yoga class and feel really great after that, feel much calmer and feel better for a few hours. But to really have this benefit of these practices over a longer period of time, where it actually shifts the way you feel on a general basis, not just immediately after a practice, but how you feel throughout the day, every day. This shift happens when you actually start to do something more and more. So the more often you do it, the more it will have an effect on the long term. So let's just all come up to sitting straight, and we will now, unless there are any other questions, if somebody wants to ask a question at this point, you can unmute yourself or you can type it into the chat box. Otherwise, we're just going to begin with a small practice. Okay, good. So I want you all to sit upright. So sitting with your spine straight. You can close your eyes here. So I'm going to keep my eyes open just to see if somebody types in something. But you can just close down your eyes and just becoming aware of your own breath. Not trying to change the pattern of your breath, but just in the beginning, just being aware of how you're breathing right now. And just make a mental note of that, of what is the pattern of your breath. Is it long, deep, shallow, short? So we are going to begin with a technique which is, it's in English, it's called the box breath or square breath. So what we're doing is basically there are four aspects or stages in the breath. There is the inhale, the exhale, and there are two retentions or two holds. So once we inhale, if we hold after we inhale, that is an inhale hold. And when we hold after exhale, that's an exhale hold. So inhale, exhale, and the two holds. So we're going to breathe in this square pattern with these 4 stages of the breath. So I'm going to count you through it. So let's start beginning to inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last one. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can begin to breathe normally, keeping your eyes closed. We're just going to stay silent for a few moments, observing any sensations that may be arising in your body. Trying to again make a mental note of how you feel at this moment. Do you feel any different? So somebody is saying that they feel energy in the hands. This is very common when we do breath work or we do some kind of meditation practice. A lot of our energy channels, which are called nadis in yoga. So in yoga, there are these energy pathways that run throughout our entire body. There are 72,000 of these um, pathways that are going through our entire body. I'm sure most of you all must have heard of the word chakra. A chakra is basically a point where multiple of these energy pathways or nadis are intersecting. So it's like a major intersection on a highway. It's a chakra is that. So chakra is a wheel or a vortex of energy that is sort of when multiple nadis pass through that. So now we have many nadis that are ending in our palms, and so there is a lot of energy in our palms, and sometimes the palms are a good indicator of when we have are lacking energy or lacking vitality. So when you just when you have cold hands all the time, or you are constantly sweating in the hands, it also it's an indication of some issue that is coming up in our energy body, our vitality. There is a sort of a low vitality, and so at that moment it's actually best that we take it easy, rest more. So our body is always sending us these sort of signals. So if we start to create a clear line of communication between us and our bodies, we start to understand what signals mean what. So that's really what actually breath awareness or yoga practice is trying to make us bring more bodily awareness, so that we now know what this each signal means. We can decode the signals that our body is giving us at every moment. So a lot of people are saying our breath went from shallow to deep, noticing difficulty in breathing. Yeah. So also, yes, if you have difficulty holding the breath after exhale, then you shouldn't try to force it. Though in the beginning, so when we practice through the yoga, through the yogic method of breathing, we don't want to push. So we never want to become breathless when we do a breathwork practice. We want to remain as calm, as tranquil and peaceful as possible while we are breathing. So when you inhale, or when you can then instead focus more on lengthening your inhale and holding for lesser time. So you don't want to become dizzy or breathless. This is not the aim of this practice. Okay, so now we are going to do a second practice, which is called the Nadi Shodhana technique. So all these techniques that I'm demonstrating now are techniques to relax, to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest, to sort of decrease the brain waves, to allow us to sort of rebalance our endocrine system so we feel calmer, more at peace. We have the right hormones that are releasing in our body so that we feel better in general. So in Nadi Shodhana, we this is an alternate nostril breath. This is a breathwork technique that is balancing, that is helping us balance between the left and the right nostrils. We are in that sense balancing the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So we will begin by, you can bring your either one of your hands, your right or your left hand, and you're going to bring your first two fingers, your index finger and your middle finger, down to the base of your palm. And now you're going to use to place your thumb on one nostril and the ring and little finger on the other nostril. So that's how you will be closing your nostrils. If somebody finds it difficult to hold this position, you can just stay normally with the index finger and the thumb instead, if you're finding it difficult to hold this position. So when we close our nostrils with our fingers, we are going to close at the point where the bone, so the point where the bone ends. So just at the point where the bone ends, we are going to close there. So not at the bottom, but just where the bone ends, that's where we close the nostrils. So we are again going to hold the breath. This time we won't hold the breath after exhaling. It's much harder to hold the breath once you exhale. So we are going to just focus on internal retention where once we inhale. So you can all come to a straight seated position once again, closing your eyes if you need to. It's always advisable to close your eyes so you can then be more in touch with the sensations that are arising as you do these techniques. So placing your thumb on your right nostril, closing your right nostril, and exhaling all the air out through the left, removing all the stale air out of your system. Now closing your left nostril, breathing in from your right. So breathing in from your right nostril for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath, closing both nostrils for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling from the left nostril for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale from the left nostril for 1, 2, 3, 4. Closing both nostrils, hold the breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling from the right for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale from the right nostril for 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding the breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling for 6 this time from the left for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale from the left 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale from the right for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale from the right for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale from left for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale from left for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale from right for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale from right for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale from left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale from left 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale from right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last 2 rounds. Inhale from right 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale from left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale from left 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale right 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale left 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale from the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can now release your hands, bringing your breath back to normal, keeping your eyes closed here, trying to remain aware of any sensations that may be arising. how you feel at this moment, checking in, again, taking a mental note of where your mind is at, whether you feel calmer, more at peace, more balanced. And you can slowly begin to open your eyes. Again, if you have any questions or something you'd like to share, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can put it into the chat box. So somebody says little emotional pressures rising. So I mentioned this at the beginning that breathwork can be quite cathartic in the sense that we are releasing emotions, releasing past traumas, a lot of this. So a lot of the times when we allow ourselves to relax, when we allow our parasympathetic nervous system to become activated, we are also allowing memories and a lot of things that are buried under the surface to come up into our conscious minds. And then we can, so this is true for all kinds of practices that are allowing us to relax. So for breath work, for whether it's breath work, whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's some other kind of movement, we are, a lot of our emotions, our traumas are stored in our body. So our body is basically a place where a lot of information is being stored. Our body stores information of our ancestors, of the genetic codes, where we come from, the climates our ancestors have been through, the kinds of foods they've eaten. All of this information is stored in through DNA and genes in our body. Our body also stores things that have happened to us within this lifetime. Our eating patterns are stored in the body. Our um, all of these things, the way we move, all of these get stored as patterns in the body. Also our emotional patterns and our thought patterns also do get stored in our physical body. There's a lot of science today on the fascia. The fascia is a connective tissue, a web-like connective tissue that sort of envelops our entire body. And this fascia is running through our entire body. We have multiple fascial lines, and they found that when we go through a highly stressful situation or a circumstance or something that happens to us that is unpleasant, that we don't like at all, that we try to sort of run away from, this circumstance, it creates tension in these fascial lines. So there is a direct storage of that memory or that thing that happened to us in our fascia. So now as we do some kind of body work movement to release the fascia, or sometimes just by allowing our mind to relax and allowing those emotions to come up, we also correspondingly relax a particular part of the body. So a lot of people saying that the head feels fuzzy, or you feel some certain sensations in your body as you do breath work. It's primarily because we are the breath is, in a sense, through the breath we are circulating this life force or this prana in our entire body. So when we are unaware of how we breathe, we are unaware of how we are interacting with the energies and life forces around us, and how we are using that in our day-to-day existence in our life. So when we get in touch with this most powerful and yet most essential thing to life, which is our own breath, we we are then can, through the breath, control the way we feel. We can immediately calm ourselves down, we can immediately energize ourselves. All of these things can be just achieved just by using the breath. We can boost our immune system. So I'm sure a lot of you all must have heard of the Wim Hof method. A lot of Wim Hof has done a lot of work in sort of bringing out to the general population or world the benefits of breath work on our immune system, how it can boost our immune system. So that's just in a short what breathwork can do for us. It's truly an amazing practice, and it's accessible to every single person. It doesn't matter if you are physically handicapped, if everybody can access the breath, because essentially if we cannot breathe, we cannot live. um, okay, before we go into the next technique, any other questions here? So also something that before I begin with the next technique, something that I've just remembered that's come up to me is notice that when you are feeling anxious or when you are really scared or uh, in an uncomfortable situation, notice how you start to breathe rapidly. So for instance, this is even something you see in a small child. If suddenly the child is put through a highly stressful situation, or somebody scares the child, or child gets scared by an animal or something, you'll notice how the small kid starts to hyperventilate. So that hyperventilation is sort of increasing the sympathetic response of the nervous system, so that fight or flight response, and our body is getting bombarded with cortisol and all of these things, which is also required if we are truly in a situation that requires us to be able to, maybe in the past it would have been a tiger coming in front of us or some other predator, and we suddenly needing the energy to quickly and needing the quick response to run away from that tiger and save ourselves. But however, in today's day and age, we are mostly in this sort of high stress situation without any actual danger to our lives. So we are in a high stress situation in office, our boss is shouting at us, something else is happening, we have a deadline to catch. So it's sort of, we don't really have a danger to our life, but we are still in this constant state of high stress. And so just when we if we know how to use our breath, we can go through that deadline and still work at our optimal rate without actually feeling the stress. So here I'm advocating that through the breath, you can still remain in extremely high stressful situations, but not actually be stressed out by it. If you just know and are aware, constantly aware of how your breath pattern is changing as the stress increases in your environment. Okay, so the next technique we're going to do is a technique called Chandra Bedhana. Chandra means the moon, and we are activating the moon energies. So I just want to do this to give you an experience of how, when you breathe from one nostril or the other, how it really affects the way you feel and your physiology. So in this practice, we are going to breathe only through the left nostril. So our right nostril is going to remain closed. We're only going to breathe through the left. So you can just take your right thumb, and place it on your right nostril. So your right thumb places on your right nostril. Yeah. Once again, if possible, trying to sit upright so that your spine is straight. If you're finding it difficult to sit upright for too long, you can also just lie down, but make sure that your spine is straight, whatever you do. You can close your eyes so that you can feel the sensations that arise as you do this practice. Closing the right nostril with the thumb, inhaling from the left for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale from the left for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhaling from the left for 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhaling from the left for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale from the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last 3. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can release your hand, keeping your eyes closed. Just remaining aware of any sensations that are arising, staying present with your own body, with your own breath, tuning into how you feel at this moment. And you can slowly begin to open your eyes once again. And I would like you all to just share in the chat box how you feel at this moment. It can be just a keyword, it can be a sentence, just in brief sharing how you felt after doing that breath work where we were just only breathing in and out through the left nostril. We're going to do the same thing again with the right nostril, and I want to see the difference, how you felt different when we only breathed through the left versus breathing only through the right. So felt the left side more intense, very relaxed, alert, little difficult to hold the breath. Okay, so if you're finding it difficult to hold the breath, you can just elongate your inhales as compared to the holds, if that is possible for you. Elongate the inhales as well as the exhales compared to the holds. Wasn't able to get enough air through the left. Yeah. So also there is sometimes if we have blocked sinus from one or the other side, then it's difficult to do this practice. Also, when you have one nostril that's more blocked, your left is more blocked, generally like I said earlier, there's more of this right nostril energy, flight or fight response, masculine energy. It's sort of you're in that state. So we are always constantly shifting from one nostril to another. And ideally, if our body is well balanced, our right nostril should be activated right after we eat food, for instance. So right after we eat food, to help us digest the food, there's more fire that's coming in through the right nostril, and the left nostril should be active when we are, say, going right before you go to bed. So this is something also that you can practice if, for instance, you have insomnia, you have a difficulty falling asleep at night. Just just try to be mindful, try to check in with your breath. So if you have difficulties falling asleep, check in whether you're breathing rapidly, your breath rate is fast, whether you're breathing predominantly through the right or the left nostril. And you can even just close your right nostril and for 15 minutes do the same way we just did. You can just do inhale, hold, exhale, and as much as you can. So if you feel that holding for 8 counts is too much, you can hold for just 4 counts, and you can continue in that way just for 10-15 minutes until you start feeling sleepy and relaxed. So that's a really good way also to if you are not able to sleep at night. Okay, so we are going to do the same now with the right nostril. It's called Surya Bedhana, which is Surya means the sun. So we are activating the energy of the sun, the solar energy, by breathing through the right nostril now. Again, if you have difficulties in holding the breath for as long as I'm counting, in this practice, I will actually decrease the seconds that we hold the breath. And then later on, if you do take up this practice and practice on your own, you can then increase or decrease the amount of hold as you wish. Also, if you still find it difficult to hold, increase the time when you're inhaling and the time when you're exhaling as compared to the time when you hold. Okay, so once again, we can try and come into a straight spine position, closing down your eyes. And this time we are going to take our left thumb and place it on our left nostril, inhaling through our right nostril for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale through the right for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale through the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale from the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale from the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale from the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale from the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale from the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last 2. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can release your left hand, keeping your eyes closed, just remaining aware of any sensations that may be arising, tuning into how you feel at this moment. And once again, you can open up your eyes. Yeah, and you can again type into the chat box how you felt breathing in through your right nostril. So some people had trouble with the right, some people had found the right easier, calm, powerful. So why I'm also doing this is I want you to become aware of, because each one of us has a different individual makeup. The way we breathe is different, and the first step towards changing the way we breathe is to analyze the breath. So when we begin to analyze whether I'm breathing fast or I'm breathing slow, I'm breathing long or deep, and how by breathing a certain way, what effect I feel on the body, this kind of analysis of our own breath helps us to first of all correct the wrong patterns of breathing, and also helps us to understand how we can use the breath to change the way we feel. It's a tool that has been with us since ever, since all of history. It doesn't need a particular science or a particular religion or a particular spiritual tradition to tell us how we can use the breath to heal ourselves. because we all have that capacity to breathe, and we all just need to experiment, play around with the breath, breathe in different ways, the same way that we are playing around with our body, or we play around with some gadget to understand how to function that gadget, or you get a new smartphone, you're playing around with the smartphone to understand it. In the same way, it's not completely necessary that you have to have somebody to teach you these things. Of course, it speedens up the process, because somebody can easily give you that knowledge that they've acquired over many years of practice and understanding the breath. But still, it's something that is so accessible, it's so easy for you to just play around with yourself, just 10 minutes each day, breathe in different ways and see how it impacts the way you feel. And just by doing that, whatever, regardless of what technique it is, one thing is, when we actually do this kind of breath work, it makes us more calm, makes us more aware, makes our senses more alert. So I'm sure quite a few of y'all would be feeling right now an alert, more of an alertness, more of a relaxation, a feeling of being more present. And this is what breathwork really has to offer. So in the yoga traditions, pranayama or breathwork is something that precedes meditation. It's oftentimes a lot harder to sit down in a silent meditation than it is to do a breath work, because meditation in and of itself is the lack of doing anything. We are not trying to do anything. We are not trying to do a particular tool or a technique. We are just trying to allow ourselves to be. So it's being rather than doing. That's really the essence of meditation. And sometimes it's hard to do that, because when we just try to be, there are many things that arise within us, many thoughts, many emotions, a lot of restlessness, different feelings come through us. So but on the other hand, when we do breath work, we are actively doing something. So when we are practicing a particular technique, we are actively directing our attention towards carrying out that technique or that tool. And so automatically through that process, it's easier for us. We don't feel as restless, we don't feel like, of course we might feel like, oh, this is boring, I don't want to do this any longer, but there's lesser of that as compared to meditation. So it's a much easier practice to get into, to calm ourselves down, to relax the mind, and to get benefits from a more relaxed mind, relaxed body, which is free of stress. Any questions? I'm opening the room for questions right now. So a couple of questions. I don't really feel I breathe with the belly, and you have music suggestions. So I would suggest that when you do breath work, you can use some music that is more that is in the background. So it can be like a hang drum or a flute, or even like a nature sounds, or a Tibetan singing bowl or a gong. These are very good to go along with breath work, because they allow you to still be aware and still hear your own breath. So it's, you don't want music that's too loud that you cannot hear your own breathing pattern. So you want to be in touch. Also, you want to engage as many senses as you can with that whole. So you're also engaging your ears, your auditory sense with your breathing. So anything that's sort of more background like. And I don't really feel I breathe with the belly. So it's really important to start doing practicing abdominal breath. So I would suggest for you to, even maybe 10 minutes before you go to sleep, or if you do take an afternoon nap or something like this, to just place a book on your belly. So lie flat on your back and place something heavy on your belly. It can be a book, or something else. Just feel that going out and in. So when we only breathe until here, we don't breathe lower into our bellies as we inhale and exhale. We It affects our metabolic rate, our metabolic system. So we actually, there are studies that have found that we don't digest food as well when we are only breathing into our upper lungs, when we are not using our diaphragm completely and breathing also figuratively into our stomachs. So when actually what we are doing when we say breathing into the stomachs is we are also using the lower diaphragm. So when we start breathing slower and deeper, we use our lower diaphragm as well as our upper diaphragm. What tends to happen for most people when the breath is unconscious, when we are constantly stressed, we're not giving attention to the breath, is we only breathe through the top part of our lungs. We don't breathe through the bottom part of our lungs. And so that bottom part is not being used, those muscles are not being activated. And it's also, every time you breathe in, and every time you breathe in, the belly comes out, and every time you breathe out, the belly goes in. As you do this, it's also gently massaging all your organs, in especially the digestive organs, your liver, your intestines, your stomach. All these are gently getting massaged by the diaphragm. So this muscle is gently massaging it, and as you breathe. So it's in my opinion, to truly have relaxation, it's important that whenever we are in a state of rest, so that means when I when we are not doing exercise, something physically strenuous, when we are, even when we're just sitting on our office work, sitting on our laptops, reading something, lying in bed, we want to breathe deeply into our bellies, expanding our bellies and contracting the belly. So that's something that's really important. So, like I said, a good way to practice that is to just place a book on the belly. Any other questions, thoughts? Okay, so the last thing we are going to do for this session is we are going to actually try, and so we're going to breathe a few times normally, maybe 8 or 10 times. I will guide you through this, and then in the end we are going to exhale all the air out. So we're going to take a deep exhale, exhaling, pushing all the air out of our lungs, out of our stomach, and then we're going to try and hold the breath. And we're going to try and hold the breath for as long as possible. So if you can right now, it would be nice if you have your phone handy or something handy. I want you guys to all time yourselves. So I want you to just get your phone or something that you can time yourself, or even if you can just, even just count by yourself, and I want you to count how long you can hold on external retention. So we'll do this exercise first, and then once after we do this, I'm going to explain what is the significance of how long we are able to hold on external retention. So we'll take 10 breaths normally. Just have your phone handy so you can calculate how long you can hold for. Taking a long inhale, exhale. You can also have your eyes closed here if you feel. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Last breath. Inhale and exhaling completely, pushing all the air out of your lungs, exhaling completely and holding the breath for as long as you can, putting on your timer on here. So what I just made you do, this is a very simple yet effective way to calculate our the health of our the gas exchange that's happening in our lungs. So we have these hair-like structures in the lungs called the alveoli, which are absorbing the oxygen and also giving out the carbon dioxide. So this the alveoli, when we hold the breath after internal retention, when we inhale and hold the breath, we are allowing this the alveoli to actually absorb better the oxygen, carbon dioxide in our body. Now, what I mean by this gas exchange is that there is an efficiency. So our lungs, as we do more and more breath work, can become more and more efficient at absorbing and holding our um, at the gas exchange, at the rate of which it exchanges these gases. So I'll explain this through an example so that it's easier to grasp. Think of a deep sea diver, somebody who's been diving for many, many years. And now think of a complete beginner, a novice diver. So say these two people, they have an oxygen tank and they dive deep into under the sea together. Now the deep sea diver is able to maybe after an hour is finishes only about 40% of his or her oxygen tank, but the novice or the beginner diver is uses up 100% of the oxygen tank within in the hour. So you see that both of these people are using that oxygen at a different rate. Does this mean that that the experienced diver is actually has less oxygen in the body? No, this means that basically the experienced diver, his lungs, because of doing breath work and because of holding for longer, are more efficient at absorbing these gases into his cells in his body. So this cellular absorption of the gases is happening more efficiently, and that's why he uses lesser of the oxygen tank as compared to somebody who doesn't. So this is just a way to calculate how good our respiratory exchange is happening. So according to a lot of medical science today, they say that a healthy gas exchange is at a minimum of 30 seconds holding on an external retention. So after exhaling, when we hold the breath, if we can hold for at least 30 seconds, that means our respiratory function is healthy. If it's below 30 seconds, then we need to do a lot more work to increase our respiratory function. So we need to do a lot more breath work where we are holding the breath on internal retention as well as holding the breath external retention, so that we increase the function of our entire respiratory system. I hope that was clear for everyone. Any other last questions, thoughts, doubt, something you'd like to ask me? So I didn't quite get your question. If the masculine energy is more active, how to balance it? Uh, so ideally, if you have the techniques that I showed you today was a lot more to actually relax, to increase our parasympathetic nervous system response. So just breathing only through your left nostril, even doing like the alternate nostril breath work is very balancing. It's balancing. Even if you have more feminine or more masculine energy, it's balancing for both. So doing alternate nostril breath work, breathing only through your left nostril, even lying in bed, just doing belly breathing, placing something on your belly and just allowing your belly to come in and out. All of these techniques help you to relax this sort of masculine energy. So ideally, if we have this, we feel that we are in overdrive, our mind is constantly in overdrive, we have too much of this nervous energy, jittery energy, and we want to calm that down. Ideally we should as much as possible try to extend our exhales. So in the yoga practice, this is called the moon breath. So the moon breath is when we can double our exhale as compared to the inhale. So ideally we can do this even for 20 minutes every day, where we inhale for 4 counts, hold the breath for 4 counts, and then exhale for 8 counts. So, or inhale for 8 counts, hold the breath for 8, exhale for 16. Depending on the capacity of your breath and of your lungs, you can choose whatever techniques you want, but essentially, doubling the exhale as compared to the inhale is also a really good way to calm the self down and remove that excessive nervous or jittery energy.